freest country in the world, but most people are more addicted, more distracted, more undisciplined than ever. So the question is, are we actually free? Because freedom isn't about where you live. It actually is about what controls you. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, because something that I've been thinking a lot about is the aspect of drifting and how we can drift away from what's most important. Really, when we talk about our freedoms, our life, our goals, things that we're going for, it's so easy to get off the mark. And I think everybody can make the example or kind of rationalize in their head when you go to the beach. You know, you set up all your stuff, you have all your gear, your coolers, your blankets, your food, all that stuff, and you set it up on the beach, and you typically go straight out into the ocean. And you start playing around, you start swimming, playing with the kids. Next thing you know, you look up and you look for your stuff, and it's not where it was, because that current has drifted you. Now, you didn't feel yourself drifting. You didn't intend to drift. But before you know it, you could be 30, 40, 50 yards away from where you currently were. So welcome again to the Live Younger, Longer podcast. And I think a big part of how we can live our best life is to be conscious of drifting in our lives and really being conscious of what our goals are, what our morals are, what our ethics are, what our true beliefs are, and stand on those and not being willing and really being pulled away or drifted away from some of those values. So, you know, what I really want to kind of get into is what the real problem is. You know, when you think about drifting is subtle. It's not necessarily rebellion, but it's neglect. I'll give you a simple example is maybe reading your Bible every day. You know, maybe you get in a habit of reading your Bible every day, and then something gets thrown off. You go on a trip or something happens at work where you get really, really busy. Your sleep kind of gets off. Then maybe you wake up too late one day and you don't do that. And then before you know it, a couple days go by. And then you might start going where you're reading a couple times a week. And then it's maybe once a week. Then it's maybe over a couple times a week. It's not intentional. You didn't really get where you didn't want to, or what it wasn't important to you. You just started drifting away from some of those habits and where you get onto. So it's not like you're rebelling against reading the scriptures. It's kind of neglect. You kind of went into that neglect because no one wakes up one day and just decides to lose discipline or to lose faith or even their purpose in life. It happens slowly. It's less intentional because things become more comfortable. Honestly, comfort is, I'll tell you, if you're not comfortable in your life, or if you are comfortable, normally there's something wrong. You should be constantly trying to challenge yourself, whether that's on a physical level, a mental level. You know, it's shown that if we're constantly reading, if we're constantly stretching our brains and our minds, it stays younger longer. Same with our body. If we're constantly stressing our body and trying to get in better and better and better shape, you know, again, how do you build muscle? You have to break it down to build the muscle. And so a lot of times if you're getting very comfortable, it's because you're not challenging yourself. You're not striving for anything else. We ended up, especially in today's world, where we get more distracted. I mean, it's crazy to me to think that in the last 2 years, there's been 3 assassinations attempts on our president. One a couple days ago. And even the one a couple days ago, it almost feels like an afterthought because they're constantly throwing all this other stuff at you. There's, you know, if you put on any news station, there's constant news alert. Breaking news alert. There's constantly something. If you get on social media, I know you can relate to getting distracted because you went on social media for a purpose. Maybe you wanted to create some content. Next thing you know, you've scrolled for 2 hours doing nothing, just getting distraction. It's because, you know, here's really the scary part. Drifting feels comfortable. It feels normal because everyone else is doing it. Like, when you look at a lot of people in today's world, or you look at some of the high achievers in today's world, a lot of times, you know, they're almost looked at like this, like this specimen, or I can't think of the right word, but where you're really thinking of like, oh man, that guy got something special. What they got special is they're disciplined. They're disciplined in their time, their habits. They're very disciplined in their life. They're not doing anything special. For a lot of people, it boils down to consistency. Being consistent and trying to build a business, being consistent and trying to create content, maybe being consistent in your job so you can move up, being consistent as a spouse or a parent. And again, these things aren't hard, but it's so easy to start drifting away from it, and we get out of it. And it's like what I like to call kind of the comfort trap, where, you stop valuing it. And guys, there's a reason I got American flag behind me. I love this country. I have the utmost respect, and I try to give honor when I see soldiers out getting lunch. Like, I want to buy their lunch just to give a little gratitude back to the sacrifice service they made. Like, I truly appreciate what so many have bled and literally paid the ultimate price for and died for the freedoms we have in this country. That's why it drives me crazy when so many people try to just chastise this country or demonize it. We live in the best place on earth, and I've been to a lot of places, and there's a reason why everybody tries to come here, because this magnificent, beautiful experiment, as Bono once said, it created more wealth, more opportunity for anywhere else in the world. Because so many places, there's literally no opportunity to do that. Literally no. When I go to Africa sometimes, it's crazy because you'll go to this town and it looks like a slum, for lack of a better word. Like, you wouldn't want to live there ever. Like, you would have no desire to live there. But I know, and I've met young women that their desire was to go out from where they were to this area because they figured if they can get there, they might have an opportunity. And then just to try to get an opportunity to try to maybe get an education or even raise their kids, sadly, they end up prostituting themselves, and they get stuck in this cycle to where, honestly, they have babies young because they are prostituting themselves, and or they got attacked at some point in their life. And then they feel like they have no hope and no future to actually go on to the bigger city of like Nakuru or some of the places that we've been in, to where they feel like they might have more opportunity. Most of the kids that we sponsor through our child sponsorship program, it's interesting because they're having a chance for an education that their parents and even their grandparents never had. And here it's free. There's schools everywhere. Do we take it for granted? Is there a reason that why so much free education or free healthcare or everything that's just free and given to us isn't valued? Is there a reason why there's so many countries in the world education is free till about 5th, 6th, maybe 7th grade? Then after that, you have to pay for it. And as well as I do, anytime you have to actually sacrifice or pay for anything, it's valued more. And the problem is, in this country, because we've been given so many freedoms and liberties, that people don't value it anymore. They don't value it at all. But it's crazy how many people want to demonize this country, but yet they don't leave it. Yeah, they'll talk a bunch of trash about how evil and horrible this place is, but there's no one keeping you here. Isn't that crazy why people don't decide to leave to go to some of these other better utopias around the world? Why don't they? Because there's not. There's this whole thing going on right now in the LGBTQ community and the trans community, and people talking about how horrible it is to live here. I've been to countries where they will literally kill you if they find out that you are a homosexual or a trans person. They will literally kill you. Like, there's no ifs, ands, questions. But yet here they have parades. They have all kind of stuff. Like, you can kind of live your life if you choose to live your life that way. But yet they want to say how scared they are here. And there's no real dangers. And the problem is most of these people have never been anywhere else. So they don't actually have a true compass of, again, they've drifted so far because all these freedoms have been given to them for so long. And there's a lot of people in our society that they get to this point where they don't value it anymore. It says where so much has, where much has been given because we've been given so much. So we stopped valuing our freedoms. We saw it during 2020 when the shutdowns went on. I can completely understand for the first month, maybe 2 months, stretch it to 3 months, where we're still trying to wrap our head around what's going on. Yeah, we need to be careful because we really weren't sure what we're dealing with. But how many businesses, small businesses, voluntarily stayed shut? Now, they were told that they couldn't open, but yet I know people in Houston that decided, I can't keep down. I have to pay my employees. I have to support my family. So I'm going to open up. But so many people stayed shut down for so long that they couldn't recover. It was a travesty what happened to our small business communities. But yet, some of those freedoms that we've taken for granted for so long, and we've drifted away from truly valuing what the sacrifices were made for the freedoms that we enjoy every day. When I went down to Cuba back, it was 2004, 2005, I couldn't publicly evangelize in the street if I wanted to. Now, they had their state-run churches, and it was okay if they were cleared, if the pastors were cleared to preach the gospel there. But I could literally get arrested. I could have gotten arrested for some of the stuff that I did there just by sharing my faith. I can go out anywhere here in America and share my faith without that worry. I mean, it's little things like that. That's why I value our freedom so much. And it gripes me when people don't understand what we truly have and they're so willing to just give it away. Because like I said in my last podcast, most people, they don't have to take our freedoms by force. We voluntarily give it away. I remember a time before September 11th, 2001, going through the airports. There was no TSA, guys. There was none of that. You could walk on an airplane. You could walk your family to the gate to say goodbye to them. You didn't have to take off your shoes. You didn't have to be frisked. None of that stuff. Now, you went through normal security measures and metal detectors, but from what it is today, now, let me ask you, did they use fear to manipulate a situation to take some of our freedoms and liberties? Absolutely. Did they take it by force? Absolutely not. We voluntarily gave it away. When things are earned, they're protected. And that's why, you see, if you look at the problem of immigration right now, who are the most staunch people for legal immigration? It's the legal immigrants that went through the process to get here legally because they earned it. They earned their citizenship. It wasn't given to them. They earned it. And they're some of the biggest proponents of the legal immigration and not allowing people just to skip the line, because the people that came here illegally, do you think they value this country as much as the people that earned it? Absolutely not. I remember when my middle son, he was about 10 years old, and he came to me one day and he's like, Dad, I want an iPod. And I laughed. I was like, well, how much are they? And at that time, they're like $100. And I said, well, what makes you think I'm just going to give you an iPod because you want it? And he kept trying and trying. I was like, listen, I'm not going to give it to you, but you can earn it. And he's like, okay, what can I do? And at the time, the house we lived in, we had a fairly small lawn, and I didn't expect him to weed eat it and all that. I just said, hey, you mow the lawn, I'll pay you $10 every time you mow it. He's like, deal. And he mowed that lawn until he earned that iPod. Now, what was interesting is the care he took for that iPod, or with that iPod. That thing never hit the ground. Like, he protected it. He valued it because he worked for it. Now, let's talk about Xbox controllers that they didn't earn because maybe it was a Christmas gift or something. Yeah, those things would get slung across the room or slammed on the desk if they got frustrated at a game. Now, it was about half the cost of that iPod, but he didn't value it because he didn't work for it. He didn't earn it. When things when things are given, they're often neglected. And we're seeing that in spades in this country right now. It's crazy to me that we literally just had a massive No Kings rally, but yet those same people were standing and applauding the King of England, the literal King of England. So what is it? Do you like kings or do you not like kings? And all these protesters that are saying how many of our liberties are given away, I've been to multiple countries. You can't do that. You will immediately get arrested, if not beaten and arrested. I've seen some of the protests, how they go down in Africa. It ain't nice. I've personally witnessed it. I've been in the middle of it. It is crazy. And so when I see these protesters here that are squawking and gawking on how all of our liberties are being taken away, and nothing is happening to them, even when they cross the line of spitting in police faces or assaulting them, a lot of times nothing is happening. Let me tell you what you might not make it home if you did that in Africa. You might just disappear. But again, they don't value these freedoms because they didn't earn it. These people protesting, most of them never served in our military. They didn't have family members that served and bled and got hurt and or died protecting our freedoms. And that's a problem. You know, we don't lose freedom. We just get comfortable with it. And when we get comfortable with it, we start neglecting it. And when we start neglecting it, we start taking it for granted until one day, sometimes it just goes away. You know, when we think about what it talks about in Luke 12:48, to whom much is given, much is required. This isn't a blessing. It's a responsibility. We have a responsibility to protect this country. People talk all bad about capitalism, but capitalism is the greatest structure in the world that has risen more people out of poverty than any other structure ever in the history of the world. And yet people want to criticize it, demonize it, say it's a bad thing. I've said this multiple times, but how our poor live here. Again, I'll be back in Africa in July, and there's an entire city that we go to that is literally within a landfill. They've lived there since the 70s, and they were there scraping, they call it scraping, and scratching for food or anything they could find to help feed their families. They were in this landfill for so much, they started building little houses and little, you call them houses. They're not houses, they're sticks and any kind of tarps or anything they could find in the landfill. And they just started living there. And now for the past 50 plus years, there's been people literally living within a landfill. That's poor. That's destitute. What we're seeing here is, most people's poor. I remember we had a neighbor one time that always complained about money, but yet he always had money for beer, cigarettes, and he had a bigger TV than we did. And he was saying how poor he was. He wasn't poor. He had spending problems. He was undisciplined. That was the problem. So to whom much is given, much is required. Again, this is a responsibility given to us. We're accountable. And why I want to make this a part of our podcast, but because we're accountable for our time. We all have 24 hours a day. How much of that is wasted on binging Netflix and or scrolling social media, just getting fed the same garbage and affirming the same beliefs that you want to hear, making you feel good. Why? Because that algorithm is going to keep feeding you whatever you're wanting to see. We're responsible for our time. We're responsible for our bodies. Are you being a good steward over this vessel that you have? You know, I'm 50 years old and I'm in the best shape of my life. If you've seen pictures of me in my 20s versus my 50s, it's night and day. Because I understood, like, I have one body and I'm responsible for it. I'm responsible for what I do with it, what I put in it. I want to be a good steward over this vessel that God's given me. You're responsible for your influence. I can't tell you how many people disagree with something and yet they're worried about saying it out loud because, oh, I might get canceled. Someone might make a comment on social media. Somebody that they've never met being very brave behind a keyboard. And they're worried about that. They're worried about if something's going on at their school, actually raising their voice and saying, no, this is wrong. You should not be teaching this kind of crap or smut or whatever it is to our kids. But they're worried about, I don't want to be that person. And because so many people, especially men, I'm talking to you, so many men have not stood up for what is they know is right, then where have we drifted to? to where we have all this craziness going on in our schools right now, all this stuff being promoted, our kids being programmed to different ideologies in our schools because men wouldn't stand up and be men and protect their kids from this kind of garbage. I think that tide's turning, and I really hope it is. But my kids' principals knew me. My kids' teachers knew me. If I had an issue, I wasn't worried about what someone may say or think if I knew what was right and what was wrong was wrong. And I stood up for my kids, and they knew I had their back. But there was also discipline involved. They also knew I had the administrators' back if they were acting a fool. I think one thing that's been greatly lost in this country is men standing around people. You know, I know people had crazy ideas when I was a kid. It was real common to hear, man, get your head out of your ass. What are you thinking? Right? No one says that anymore. That's great advice sometimes to a kid to straighten up. You know, no, that's illogical, or that's damaging to you, or that will hurt you. Like, I know because I'm an adult and I have lived experience. I'm telling you, this road is not good. Get your head out of your ass. Let's straighten up a little bit. But too many people are too cowardly now. They don't want to do what is right and stand up for what is right. And so again, those freedoms, that influence, it's a responsibility. Our opportunities that we're given. There's opportunities everywhere. I've done podcasts about this and posts about it. There is money everywhere, guys, if you just know where to look for it. If you're willing to bust your ass, work hard, and go out there and get it. I know in one of my videos, I showed a picture of a guy that has a dog poop scooping business. It literally says on his truck, "We'll scoop your dog poop." He created a business out of cleaning up after other people's dogs. Now, is he making money? Yeah. Is he out there hustling? Yeah. Is he doing something most of you probably wouldn't ever think about doing? Yeah. But is he making it happen? Is he creating new forms of cash flow? Did he create an opportunity? Absolutely. That's why I'm such a huge proponent of the network marketing industry. It's an equal opportunity for everybody. It doesn't care about your age, your sex, your race, religion. It doesn't care about nothing. Are you willing to take an opportunity to learn a new skill set, to work hard, and to build a business? Absolutely. How many people try it for a month or two and quit, and they go back to their same old comfortable life that they're not happy with? That's not fulfilling them. That's not giving them the time or the resources to really fulfill the life that they really want. They squander opportunities. We are, again, required. To whom much is given, much is required. It's a responsibility. What are you doing with it? So the issue isn't what have you been given, it's what have you done with it? What have you really done with some of these opportunities that you've had? Again, I'm a college graduate, guys, or a high school graduate. Sorry, never set foot in a college. Never tried. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I didn't want to waste time and resources and or get in a debt to possibly get a degree in something I didn't even know if I wanted to do. So I just went to work. I got married at 20 and I worked. When I got the opportunities to either get hired on with my local municipality or get hired to work offshore or to get hired to work for AT&T or start cutting grass, because I didn't want to be dependent on an employer for what they were willing to pay me. I knew they weren't going to pay me what I needed. So I went out and started creating. I literally created new money. And then I ended up just by a push mower, a weed eater, and a blower and putting it all in the back of a truck. I ended up creating a business that was generating a couple $100,000 a year. Because it wasn't given to me. I created it. I found an opportunity. I took responsibility for that opportunity, and I stewarded it. And I created a lot of money through that because I was willing to work. I was willing to sweat. I was willing to do whatever it took to change my family's financial future. Most aren't. But if you think about where most of us are in right now, it's literally almost like modern day slavery, because you can be free politically but be enslaved personally. Here's what today's slavery looks like. Addiction. There are a lot of you guys out there that won't admit it publicly, but are addicted to pornography, and it's ruining your life. It's ruining your relationships. It's ruining your marriage. Okay, what are you doing about it? Addictions, dopamine hits. How many people like my post? Finding anything to get that little quick dopamine hit. Your phone. Like most of you guys couldn't live without your phone. Like if you didn't have your phone right next to you all the time, you wouldn't know what to do with yourself. Like you'd just be antsy. You'd be anxious because you didn't have your phone on you. Validation. Like I'm creating this platform because I want to help people live a better life, get more out of every year of their life. That's my whole intent and goal. Now, if that creates a big following, amazing. If I can help one person, amazing. If one person trips on this and it clicks a switch, is it worth it? Absolutely. I'm not looking for validation of the world. I'm looking for my tribe. People I can talk to, people I can grow with, people I can build a community with. Again, that wants to get the most out of every year of their life. That wants to be responsible for their time, their body, their influence, their opportunities. That's what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for validation for 100% of people. If it was 1%, but that 1%, it changed something in their life that created a better outcome and opportunity for them, that's amazing. Sharing my faith. If I shared my faith with 100 people and one person gave their life to Christ, was it worth it? Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, a lot of people, here's another how modern day slavery looks like. It's a lack of discipline. And I've kind of covered this a little bit, but I'm telling you, discipline is the key to your success. It's the key to your success. If you're undisciplined with your time, undisciplined with your opportunities, undisciplined with your talents, undisciplined with your voice, with the hands of your labor, if you're undisciplined with it, you probably aren't going to succeed. I didn't get in better shape in my 50s than I was in my 20s because I was undisciplined in my diet and or my workout. And I've told you, I'm on like an 80-20 split with my diet. By 80% of the time, I think about what I'm eating. 20%, I'm grubbing with my boys. Like we are smashing wings or whatever it may be. But about 80% of the time, I'm thinking about it. I'm disciplined with what I put in my body. I'm disciplined with my supplementation. I'm disciplined in my workouts. There are a lot of days I don't feel like working out. Do I do it? Yes. I do something every day. If at a minimum, I'm going to get in 100 push-ups a day. If I don't do anything else, I'm going to do 100 push-ups a day, 2 sets of 50. I'm disciplined with it. You know, a lot of people have emotional control issues. They're enslaved because they have emotional control issues. And we see that people are posting it all the time. If you don't believe me, just get online. They are proudly showing how they have emotional control issues. And we're seeing it in some of the crime. You know, one of the radio shows I listen to sometimes said they were talking about a shooting that happened over something very stupid. You know, we hear these like in restaurant, the fast food gets your order wrong or they're out of ketchup and someone ends up getting shot. That's bad conflict resolution skills. Because someone disrespects you doesn't mean you can shoot them. But people think that they can't control their emotion. They're enslaved by that. And we're seeing it with people that are against Trump right now. Think about how people have allowed their emotional response to Trump to literally ruin relationships within their family. They've posted about this. I can't go to Thanksgiving dinner because so-and-so was there and they voted for Trump. Are you kidding me? I'm 50 years old. I know people that voted for Clinton. I know people that voted for Obama. I know people that voted for Biden. I know people that voted for Trump. I know people that voted for Bush. I'm friends with them. Right? I'm not going to allow, if I disagree with a policy decision, to corrupt my relationship with people I actually care about. But people don't have that. They're enslaved by it. You know, you don't need chains when you can't control yourself. Because you've changed yourself. You've metaphorically chained yourself. And again, you don't need chains when you can't control yourself. You got to think about that. People have to understand where they need to control some of these issues. They need to get discipline back in their life. They need to know how to control their emotions. They need to stop being addicted to so many of these little things that give these small little dopamine hits that make you feel good for the moment. Then you feel like garbage 20 minutes later. So you're constantly looking for that next hit. You want to get a good dopamine hit? Set you a small goal and achieve it. Something that's worthwhile, something that moves you forward in life. Man, you talk about dopamine hit, that hits you. Listen, here's what drift will end up costing you. Number one, it'll end up costing you your calling. I believe God's put something in each one of us that's a specific calling on each one of our lives, where He's given us the time or the talent to really fulfill that calling. I believe one of my callings is to help people achieve things they never thought were possible, whether that's on a physical level with their physical body and some of the stuff that they can do there, whether it's on a financial level or even a mental level. Achieve things they don't think are possible. It drives me every single day. I love it. That's why I started this platform. I wanted to take it from an offline opportunity to an online opportunity, because it drives me to help people create a better quality of life for themselves on all aspects. Again, spiritual, financial, physical, it doesn't matter. Help people have a better quality of life. It drives me. And I know I have a way I can break through with people when I do one-on-one coachings to really get to the root of things, and to help people recognize and understand and start making these changes. But I can drift away from that, and I have in my life. It'll cost you your calling. It'll cost you your leadership. I believe each one of us need to know how to be leaders and followers. But it'll cost you your leadership. Sadly, if you're not careful, it'll cost you your family's future. You really have to really think about where you're at, because if you start drifting too much, it will cost you your family's future, because what you tolerate now will become your lifestyle later. Now, if that's on a personal level within your life, or we're seeing it as a country in a whole, but what we tolerate now becomes our lifestyle later. And I know in my 50 years, I've seen things that started out even as crazy as they sounded. Some of these different things that were going on, they were tolerated. And it became the lifestyle, it became the normal, because we've drifted, especially as a country, we've drifted away from some of those core values. You know, most people that rail against the Constitution have never read it. They've never read the Federalist Papers. They've never read the Constitution. They've never read, the Declaration of Independence. I would have a hard time for people reading those and not really come back with an understanding on how divinely inspired they were, and have a deep reverence for the history of this country. Was our founding fathers revolutionaries? Absolutely. Were they one of the only were they some of the only revolutionaries in history that had everything to lose and nothing to gain? Absolutely. When most people are revolutionaries, it's because they're at their lowest point, and they try to rise up to change their situations. Most of our founding fathers were living very good, comfortable lives. They weren't men. They were men of means. They weren't men that were destitute and poor and broke and trying to change the system. But they understood what this country could be. And that's why they put a lot of the stopgaps and a lot of the things in the Constitution to protect us from ourselves, because we know most people are power hungry. But we've drifted away from that. We've drifted away from some of those core things that we were founded one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have drifted away from some of that. We need to get back to center point with it, because it doesn't destroy your life overnight. It slowly makes you someone that you never intended to become. And again, you look at the past 10 years, I've seen people, and a lot of them are in the public view, that if you look back 10 years ago to that person and then who they are today, I believe that drift has changed them into people they never truly intended to become. But they're at these points now. And sadly, because of pride, some people will never recognize that mistake and go back. Most people can never recognize the wrongs that they did or admit it. And so they continue to drift. So if you think about it, guys, in your life, drifting is natural. Correction is what's intentional. When you find yourself drifting off your mark, this is why you need to have goals written down. You need to have destination, like you need to have purpose and goals in your life that you want to achieve. It helps to keep that compass going north. It helps you keep there. But when you don't have any of that, you're drifting. You're like a boat in the middle of the ocean with no sail, no rudder, just being tossed by the winds of life. And one of my mentors said one time that the same winds blow on us all, but it's the setting of your sail that will determine your course. And that's so true. Most of us are driving, or they don't have a sail. You're just drifting all over. So you don't need a full life overhaul, guys. You need to make a decision. You really need to make a decision. Simple resets, right? Get disciplined again. You know what? One of the books, or one of the most famous graduation speeches by one of the military commanders was talking about making your bed every day. Start your day by making your bed every day. Like simple little disciplines to get your life in order will help you tremendously. Getting up on time, not hitting your snooze button, drinking enough water every day, looking at what you're consuming, and that's food and mentally and visually. What are you consuming? Like there are a lot of things that I have chosen. I made a decision years ago I'm not going to consume. I'm not going to consume pornography, period, and stop. Not going to consume it. If people want to show me something or, hey, check out this video, they know now not to even try. But even back in the day, I'd be like, I don't want to see it. Because I want that entire sexual experience to be focused toward my wife, not some garbage on my phone or on the internet. I'm disciplined in that. I'm disciplined in a lot of those kind of things where I'm disciplined in what I want to consume in my ears. What am I listening to? What am I visually looking at? What am I putting in my body? Getting back to discipline. Cut distractions out of your life. If you know you have an issue with social media, for example, delete it. Like, you don't have to have it. Like if you have issues, like if you know you have known distractions in your life, get rid of them, cut them, and re-anchor spiritually. Get back to the true source of who made you, who created you to be this magnificent, unique person that you are, and reset, re-anchor spiritually. Because listen, guys, you don't ever drift into a better life. You decide into one. My life is completely different today because of the decisions I made. And you are the sum of the decisions you've made up to this point. If you're not where you want to be in your professional life, in your spiritual life, in your marital life, you're there because of decisions you've made up to this point. What's the beautiful thing about that? Because of, again, the freedoms that we have, make a decision. Change it. Get back to it. You got to make sure that you're making the right decisions of where you want to be and what you want to do so that you can change and create into the life that you want. There's nothing stopping you. There's nothing stopping you in this world but you and the decisions you're making. Because again, you can live in the freest places in the world and still be a slave to sin. And a lot of people are. And where is the power of sin? It's in the secretisness of it. That's a word. That's where the power of the sin is. You want to break it? Tell somebody. Tell someone you trust that will help you break that. Right? Freedom isn't external, guys. It's internal. It all starts with us. Are we being good stewards over this land that we have? Over your property, over your possessions. I drive a 2014 truck that I've had paid for a long time. I wash it at least once a week, if not twice. It's a beautiful dark green color, but it'll show every spot. But I want to be a good steward over that. I feel like God's blessed me with that vehicle. It runs great, looks great. I want to be a good steward over that. I cut my grass. I keep my grass low. I maintain my house because I want to be a good steward over that. Like, where are you at? Like, what are the decisions you make? What are you disciplined in? Again, to create the life you want to create. Because again, the decisions that I made back in the day, it led me to where I am today and living the kind of lifestyle and having the kind of time and financial freedom that I have in order to help other people change it because of decisions I made. I could have very easily stayed at AT&T for all these years. Would I be living the kind of life that I want? Would I have the kind of time freedom that I want to go on the mission trips I do or go on some of the trips I do with my wife whenever we want? No, they would never give me that time off. I'd never have the finances to be able to do it. But I decided, I made decisions. Again, freedom starts internally and then it goes external from there. So my final challenge to you guys is, where have you drifted? I really want you to take inventory of your life. Write them down. Where have you drifted in your life? And what are you not stewarding? Again, I gave you those examples about just some of the possessions I have. I'm a steward over it. I'm a steward over my spiritual life. I'm a steward over my marriage. I'm a steward over my friendships and the relationships that I have in my life. In our networking business, I want to steward greatly our team and help them succeed. What are you stewarding? Because at the end of the day, guys, you need to stop drifting and start leading. Stop drifting and start leading. And with that, I hope you enjoyed this. Again, if this has been of value to you, if anything has made sense to you, please like and share this episode, guys. Please help grow the community. I really love you guys. Appreciate you guys. And we'll see you next week. Take care. God bless. Have a good one.